not get into corners and throw hand grenades at each other. Because, this is another one of Walensky's principles. He says, never have a discussion with your opponent, because that humanizes them, and your job is to demonize them. And that's why you never see me getting upset with those guys, because one of his other principles is if you keep calling them names and demonizing them, they will react. And some of those reactions will be irrational, and you can use that against them. So they can try all that stuff all they want. All I'm going to do is say stop, and that means stick to our point, S-T-O-P. And you're going to hear me say that to them sometimes, stick to the point, because it's a matter of trying to get off topic because they don't have a defense. A couple of weeks ago when I said that Obamacare is the worst thing since slavery, they jumped all over that. He's comparing Obamacare with slavery and this and that, and he said, because I was so close to the truth. It really hurt. And the truth is, the government is trying to take over our lives. And that is a terrible thing. And they don't like to talk about that. And when I said that I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and that nobody, no group gets to change it. And you mentioned a couple of groups, he's comparing gays with this group and that. Because again, trying to deflect the argument. Let's talk about Carson. Let's not talk about marriage being between a man and a woman. This is a tactic that they always use. And this whole army in this room and across the country, we need to educate everybody. When they go off on the tangents and try to change the subject, just go up to them and say, stop. Stick to our point. If you keep saying that to them, they're going to get embarrassed. And when they launch their attacks, because that's what they know how to do, I always say to them, now that you've engaged in your gratuitous attack, can we get back to the subject? Really puts them off. I mean, what can they say at that point? But using a little wisdom and not reacting and always asking God for guidance in what you're doing, it makes a huge difference, I can tell you. Well, at any rate, there were a lot of difficulties in my journey to try to realize my dream of becoming a physician, not the least of which was the fact that early on my parents got divorced, and that was devastating. And I really love to say to young people especially, when you get married, it's for keeps. Not the Hollywood model, but the real model. And recognize, if there's anybody out there thinking about getting a divorce and you have children, please reconsider. Because it means so much to those children to have both parents there. And what you have to do is think about the things you love about your spouse, not the things that you don't like. If you always dwell on the negative, you can get to the point where you don't like your own mother. You just have to, you have to dwell on the positives. Think about those things. And marriage is an interesting phenomenon because you take two people from different environments and you put them under the same roof 24/7. It's like taking two pieces of sandpaper and rubbing them together. There's a lot of friction. But if you keep rubbing them together, the friction goes away. You got to stay in there long enough for the friction to go away. And that's really the key. And it's really one of the most wonderful things that God has made possible for us if we treat it the right way. But at any rate, in my mother's case, it was a little bit different. She was one of 24 children, got married at age 13. She and my father moved from rural Tennessee to Detroit. He was a factory worker. Years later, she discovered that he was a bigamist, had another family. I remember telling that story at a graduation at the University of Utah. Nobody thought it was that strange. You see that? I probably offended somebody. But at any rate, she thought that was very, very strange indeed. And it resulted in a divorce, and we ended up moving to Boston to live with her older sister and brother-in-law. Typical tenement, large multi-family dwelling, boarded up, windows and doors, sirens, gangs, murders, rats, roaches. I mean, these rats were so big. The first time I saw one, I thought it was a dog.